The following program is brought to you by Cloudcast Media, a podcast leader in developing shows to elevate local brands, local stories, and local storytellers. Cloudcast, bringing ears and minds home.
Chef Confidential is sponsored by Mosseri Produce, one of the best family-owned food distribution companies, proudly serving San Diego since 1946. Learn more about their seasonal, local, organic, and sustainable foods by visiting mosseriproduce.com. Welcome to Chef Confidential, where we get under the hood and into the kitchen to learn the art, science, and passion of cooking from great chefs.
Welcome to Chef Confidential, where we discuss food, recipes, and culture with our local San Diego chefs. I'm your host, Dave Acardapone, and in Cloudcast Studio with us today, we have the first family of Italian restaurants, Joe Busalacchi Sr. and Joe Busalacchi Jr. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Well, Joe, you're an icon in not only in the restaurant business, but also in the Italian world. So I'm going to tell the audience a little bit about how I met you. I've known Joe for over 30 years.
I think you gave me a ticket. That's how we met.
I was out here as a young man, about 28 years old, in the Navy, and from back east, and was longing for some really good Italian food. Didn't know San Diego at all. I'd been here 4 days. I was driving around, and I was in the Hillcrest area, and didn't even know the area. Didn't even know it was Hillcrest, and I stopped somebody on the street and said, "Hey, where can I go get an Italian meal? I can't find an Italian restaurant around here." And they said, "Oh, go to Busalacchi's on Fifth Avenue. Great, authentic food, blah, blah, blah." I said, "All right." So I drove over there, and that was in 1988. And you probably don't even remember this.
In 1986, we were open, and so 3 years later.
Yeah. So I drove up there and walked in and met you, and I said, "Hey, I was referred here by somebody on the street that you have a great Italian food." And you started laughing. You said, "Well, what type of Italian are you?" And I said, "What does that mean?" And he said, "Well, are you a Sicilian? Are you this?" I said, "No, I'm Sicilian." He said, "Well, what is your favorite dish?" And I said, "Aglio olio." You don't remember this, but I do. And you went back and made me a plate of aglio olio, and we've been friends ever since.
There you go. It was the olive oil, I think.
But you have, as everyone knows in San Diego, have grown a lot over that time since then with many, many restaurants. But with all stories, we want to know your story, who you are, where you came from, going back to when your family immigrated here from
Sicily.
Yeah, from Porticello in 1966.
Yeah. I was a young little boy when I arrived here back in 1986 from Italy.
No.
So,
when did you arrive?
I arrived here in San Diego in 1986.
The restaurant.
Oh.
No, you came from Italy.
I came from 1986 from Italy as a little boy. And then I went to school here, Washington Elementary.
1986, he opened the restaurant.
Yeah, this
God
is
damn
little
it, let
Joe.
me finish.
When did you come here from San Diego? When did you come here from
Italy?
1966.
Yeah, there we go.
Right. There we go.
He drinks beer out of aluminum cans.
I think it was that espresso that I had at that damn Starbucks, and not even my place. But anyway, let's get that straight. In 1966, I arrived here.
How old were you?
You know, I was 8 years old, and my first impression of coming to America was, let's get the hell back and go back home.
Really? Did you came to San Diego, right? That was
Well,
your first...
we were. My dad was a tuna fisherman here locally here in San Diego. That, his cousin was in the tuna industry, so my dad came from Italy here about 2 months before we arrived. And then, my mom was stuck with 6 kids.
In Italy, in Sicily.
In Sicily, coming, New York with hats. We had the little bow tie.
Me.
Because, in those days, when you traveled in the airplanes, you dressed up.
Yeah.
And I missed that. Basically, we had a little bow tie, we had shorts, we had a jacket. So, we looked like the Corleone family coming from Sicily, arriving in New York. And then from New York, obviously, we landed here in San Diego. And then my memories of going to school the first days were horrible. We didn't know anything about what to expect. So we arrived the first day to school, and we were just looking outside, looking at all these kids with these little lunch pails with Superman, with all the, and we got these lucky bags, from the grocery store, and we got a loaf of bread with some olive oil and tuna, the smell. And our first day was, the first day going in school, not understanding a thing.
You didn't know the language?
I didn't know nothing.
Wow. That must have been scary, though, as an 8-year-old kid. I mean, coming over to a new country, out of your culture and your safe zone, being planted here, not knowing the language. I mean, people really don't understand, that as a kid, as a journey that you went through.
True. And it's really hard as an 8-year-old. What kept me alive was my brothers, because I have 5 brothers.
Yeah.
So, going home, and we could speak our own language and play together, but it would have been really hard for an 8-year-old who does not know hello, goodbye, or anything, going to school there.
Now, did you go to the school in the Italian community there?
I did. In Little Italy, there's a Washington school.
Right.
It's
it's
an
still
elementary.
there.
Yeah.
Still there.
Yeah.
In Little Italy.
I'm still there.
Did they have Italian teachers there? Teachers?
There was nobody except for one person who could translate for me.
Yeah.
And this, we grew up together. His name was Ed Ballesteri. So that he's the first guy that I met coming to America and giving me a little bit of translation along the way. But you come in and the kids would say hi, and you go, hi, what the hell did I do to him? Did I step on his foot or something? Because in Sicilian you go, I, like somebody hit you or something like that.
Yeah.
So hi, But, going back, and then the first day I couldn't wait to get lunch. My mom thought we were going away for about a month because she put like 4 apples, no chips, a whole loaf of bread with tuna, and olive oil, and we literally lunch would come in, and then you see these little lunch pails, and they got the thermos in there, and the Twinkie, and 2 carrots and half a bologna sandwich, and there I am pulling out a ship, with smelly stuff, and
That's great.
And I would come home and say, Mom, you gave me 4 apples, so what's wrong with that? I wasn't going away, I'm only going away for a couple hours, but.
What did you say to your mother and father on the first day of school when you got home?
I said, I want to go back.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. I didn't have anything, there was nothing here, my friends were gone. We played outside. We played soccer outside and at home, and then we learned how to play baseball, and then from that we played, obviously football. But it was very hard for a kid. But, one thing I did was I decided to go to work. And I went down to General Dynamics at the time, and I was selling newspapers out of there. So just to keep me busy, because I didn't have there was nothing that I could do at school until I learned the language. And at that time, there was no tutoring. So we had to learn on our own.
Learn on your own, yeah.
And so it took longer than normal.
Now, how long was that for you before you settled in and felt comfortable in America?
It took longer than it should, because our neighborhood was literally all Italian.
Yeah.
So you went back from school, then you went back to your area, and you spoke Italian. Again, going to school, not having the tutoring, and I look at the kids today, how blessed they are. They have everything.
Yeah,
if
they
you're
do.
Hispanic or Italian or whatever it is, they could help you out. But coming to America without not knowing anything was really difficult. And I felt bad for my dad and my mom, who had even harder times.
You brought up an interesting point. I want to go back to that. You were talking about you went and got a job because you were feeling a little lost and not fitting in, so you wanted to go to work, which is something we're going to talk about later on about your work ethic. But it's funny how it started at 8.
Yeah, it did. And there was nothing for me to do. We couldn't play soccer because no one knew how to play soccer in those days. It was baseball with this little bat. And, you didn't know if you had ran backwards or forward. We didn't know. We didn't know throwing the ball or not throwing the ball. We didn't understand the sport. But one of the most memorable thing is a way how I started making $10 a week in those days,
Wow,
back in 1966.
Yeah.
And I had the biggest route in General Dynamics, which is on Pacific Highway, and I had a little stand and not even know how to give change. So I built like a little board and asked someone if somebody gives me $1 and put circles around the board to match up
The
90
coin?
cents, the coin
Wow.
back.
That's great.
And,
That's very creative. Man.
All I knew how to say was paper. That's it. Then people would talk to me. I still would not understand.
Well, it worked. You made $10 a week.
Yeah, I made $10 a week, and I made $20 in tips. So
Wow.
that's amazing. And
That's a lot of money.
it was a lot of money then. And
Did your mother hold on to the money for
You
your
know, it's-
future like my mother did?
well,
Oh, give it to me. I'll give it to you.
It was interesting because I used to give her what I used to make, but I never told her my tip because she would take that too. so I didn't want to do that.
No, all the time mothers are the same. It's funny.
But it was great. It was great. But these days now it's a little different. So
Now you did this. You came here. You're 8 years old. You started your paper route and stuff, and then from that time till you were 18, did you get involved in the fishing industry at all?
yeah, I actually I got into sports. So football was not a lot of people know about it, but I was a good ball player. I played varsity the first year.
Where'd you go to high school?
San Diego High.
Oh, okay.
I was a great sprinter, great quarterback, a great wide receiver. I did all that. And I had a scholarship for San Diego State. At that time, it was called
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, for football?
For football.
Joe, what do you think?
And
Can he throw a football now?
I couldn't even throw a banana right now. I'm getting old. But but it's and I never had the opportunity because of the way we were brought up. My dad did not understand about the sport. Mm-hmm. My mom did not understand about the sport. I had a friend of mine, like I told you, Ballesteri, who wanted me to play Pop Warner at that time. And I didn't have $22 and a note from the doctor. Well, he got that $22 for me, and I played. And
That's great. Man.
So there was some great moments.
So you get out of high school, but at 18 you went back to Palermo to study at the Culinary Institute.
Well, I didn't go back to Palermo. I went back at 17. I went back to Italy, actually by myself, and stayed with my grandmother. So I learned a lot about the food there, even though I left knowing all the food. But my mom did the same thing she did there and did the same thing here in the United States. So I was familiar with all
So
that.
you used to tell me when you were young, Nana used to be cooking and you'd be the first one up there kind of right next to her. while she would do all the recipes, right?
I